My guest today is the Broadway actor, Mr. Jacob Keith Watson, who is back in his home state and working in Little Rock's Arkansas Repertory Theaters production of Into the Woods.
Once upon a time, I wish in a far-off kingdom.
But into the woods you go again. You have to every now and then. Into the woods, no telling when. Be ready for the journey. Into the woods. Into the woods. Into the woods and out of the woods.
To be
The play
continued.
began April 19th and runs through May 15th, with Watson as the leading male character, the baker. In reading Jacob's bio, it looks like this acting gig may be his first performance of Into the Woods, but it is far from his first time on stage. At my last count, Jacob has acted in 15 plays across the work spectrum of Broadway, national tours, and regional theater. To name a few, and some you'll likely recognize, Carousel, Hello Dolly, Phantom of the Opera, and Chicago. I love how his and other actors' resumes are unlike that of a traditional application for a job. At the top of the page, it lists his height, weight, eye color, hair color, and voice range. In no way could I ask those questions to a prospective hire at Arkansas Flag and Banner. So, Mr. Jacob Keith Watson is 5 feet 9 inches tall.
That's right. Sure. 5'9", wink, wink.
A little hint. 200 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes, and sings a baritone high C. It is my pleasure to welcome to the table the hardworking performance artist, actor, baritone, and lead male role of Into the Woods at the Arkansas Repertory Theater, Mr. Jacob Keith Jackson.
Hello!
That sounds just like a theater voice, doesn't it? So you look just like a baker. And you said you're a baker at heart.
I am, yeah.
So you're from Arkansas.
I am originally from Wynn, Arkansas.
What do your parents do?
They're both retired now. My dad was, for a long time, he coached football at Truman High School in Truman, Arkansas.
I bet you played football. You're
I did play
stocky and
football.
fit. You
quite a
played
bit of football.
defense.
I was actually offense.
Really?
Yeah, we had a very interesting
offense line?
I was on the offensive line, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then after coaching football, he was the principal of my high school for quite a while. And then my mom taught.
Ain't that just Arkansas?
Huh?
Ain't that just Arkansas?
That's so Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then my mom was a teacher at the school as well.
Kids of teachers grow up to be the best kids. We've had lots of people on here who are teachers' kids.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, they know how to teach kids. You know, they should teach parenting in school, in my opinion, because I was in shock when I had my first kid.
Yeah, I can't
and
imagine.
my daughter hates this when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. We call her the burnt pancake because you know how the first one you throw out because you're kind of learning, you're kind of testing.
Yeah, she hates
You
that.
still eat it, but you know. Yeah.
But you learn on the first one, you know.
course.
But teachers
test the
actually,
griddle.
yes, but teachers actually learn how to parent as a college degree.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you just end up with these great parents. Do you have any siblings? I hope they had more.
I have two older sisters.
What do they do? Are they actors?
They're both speech pathologists.
Oh.
They're both-
Teachers.
yeah.
So did you always want to be an actor?
No. I think it kind of hit when I was between junior and senior year of high school. I saw a production of Les Mis at the Orpheum in Memphis, and I was like, oh, that guy's looks like a linebacker, and he's singing really high, and he's got a big beard. I think I could do that. And so that's kind of what sparked the whole thing for me, was seeing that production. And I'd done some shows in high school and stuff like that, and all of my teachers and everything were so supportive and wonderful. But that was the moment that the
So you
switch flipped
could
for me.
always sing.
Sure. In some way, I sang in church some, and then I sang in choir starting probably sophomore year of high school.
I don't think people realize that you can learn to sing.
Oh yeah, anybody.
Anybody can learn it. You may not
Anybody.
sing like Whitney Houston, but
Yeah, but you can sing.
yeah, I wish I'd have known that because I love to sing, but I sing terrible because I don't ever do it. So I highly recommend that people sing as you know,
Yeah.
when you're into music in
Yeah.
junior high, just join some
Why
choir
not?
and sing in school.
Why not?
So did your mother teach you to do that? The Miss Teaching Mother, the best teacher?
No,
mother in
she
the world?
was actually she was a business teacher. She taught business classes and computer classes and stuff like that.
So I bet she doesn't like you're an actor. She's like, honey, that's not very
No,
stable.
they are incredibly supportive. They've always been, never once made me feel like I shouldn't go into this business. And I'm very lucky in that way.
Did you go to college for it?
I did. I went to Ouachita Baptist University in Arkadelphia, studied musical theater down there, and then moved to New York after that.
You've been in New York ever since?
Yep.
What is it about OBU and training good musicians?
I don't know. They
Right.
just,
You know,
that's kind of, that's why I went there in the first place. I was like, it was the only musical theater degree when I was coming out of high school in the state. It might still be, I'm not sure. And they just had such great teachers. So many good voice teachers. Yeah, very, very shocking.
Yeah.
But great education there. Great training.
Well, there is a close relationship between religion and theater.
And there's a lot of both in Arkadelphia.
That's correct.
I mean, OBU is a Baptist,
Right. Correct.
you know, and you can't really be a preacher without having some performing talents.
Right.
That's true.
I mean, really,
That's
you
right.
can't
Yeah.
get up.
Correct.
I mean,
You
I'm not trying to dish on it, but
Yeah.
how did religion even begin? Didn't it begin? as-
Charisma, performance. Yeah.
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 And I mean, who wants to dress up in all those outfits anyway? Unless you're in theater.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Unless you get paid to do it.
we're
Right.
Episcopalian, so those guys all wear dresses.
Oh, yeah. Costumes and props. And
Oh,
all,
yeah. All the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing.
Rigmarole.
Uh-huh.
It is quite a production on Easter Day. That's right.
Uh-huh.
So you left right out of college,
Mm-hmm.
went straight up to New York.
I spent a few months in Shreveport, Louisiana, working with the Shreveport Opera as a young artist.
You sing that good that you can sing opera. You
Well,
learned
it's
to
been
sing
a while
that good.
since I've sung that way, but I at one point in time in my life I could sing like that. Yeah.
Do you
And
s-
now I do mostly theater stuff.
Do you still live in New York?
Yeah. Well, we live right outside of New York. We're in New Jersey. We moved out. We bought a house out in New Jersey about 4 or 5 years ago.
You have to listen to New Jersey jokes all the time.
Yes. People think New Jersey's awful. And if you talk to people and all your friends in New York City, they think it's terrible. And then they get out there and they see how beautiful it is. And once you get past, the initial industrial part right next to the city, and it's gorgeous. It's called the Garden State.
Yeah, it's
You know what I
lined
mean?
with
Like-
trees. The streets are lined with trees,
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful.
old houses.
They kind of shut up once they visit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They leave us alone once they come out.
Who's the governor there? It's not.
It's Phil Murphy still.
Oh.
He just got
Isn't that
rid
where
of it.
Steve Christie was from? Wasn't he
Yeah,
from?
Chris Christie
Chris Christie.
was there. I didn't live there when he was the governor.
So, do you've lived in New York all through the pandemic?
Well, so luckily we were right outside the city. We were in New Jersey, so I didn't have it. Wasn't as complicated as it was for a lot of my friends who were still dead. Like stuck in the city.
What's your wife do?
She's an interior designer.
You both have unstable jobs.
Correct.
Yeah, I bet that was super fun for y'all. Oof.
Well, we renovated our house. She was still working in a real estate capacity at the time. She was doing staging for a real estate team during that period, and that picked up.
Oh, sure.
That was wild.
Yeah.
And so I turned towards. I helped her a lot. I helped her move and do installs and stuff like that, and then also renovate our house.
Y'all have children?
No kids. 2 cats.
That's
We're
my
cat
speed.
folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucia and Ophelia.
Oh,
opera.
Exactly.
So, Son Gray's been meaning to ask you this about your voice. You're called a baritone.
Oh,
Tenor.
Yes, yeah.
Baritone. Oh, yeah, we were going to talk about this. So somebody used that term with me once. He was the conductor, I think still is the conductor for Opera Philadelphia. And he's this extremely eccentric Italian man. And he asked me what voice part I sang when I told him I did church music. And I told him, I was like, well, I'm kind of like a high baritone, low tenor. And in this just crazy thick accent, he's like, a baritenor. And I was like, is that a real thing? And he's really eccentric, so I just went with it, and then never heard it again until I saw it on your paper.
Go ahead.
I just think it's a funny word that somebody actually uses, or it's funny that somebody actually uses that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
good, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. That word kind of like it started. It's been around for just a little while, but it's really now it's like a real thing because there's like musical theater tenor, which is kind of
which I always felt like
different
was
kind
more
of
derogatory than baritone. Yeah. Oh, you're a musical theater tenor.
Yeah, it's got a different sound. It's like a different kind of thing. And,
So which one's higher?
it doesn't. It kind of doesn't.
They're both kind of unofficial terms. So,
right. Yeah, they're kind of made up terms. it's interesting because if I were doing opera, my voice would have lended. It would definitely. I would just be a tenor. If I was doing opera, my voice is definitely tenorial. But if I were in the musical theater world, they don't really have tenors like that anymore. They don't write songs like that classical kind of sound anymore. So now I'm called a barytenor because I have a heavier sound to my voice than most tenors in the musical theater do, and I can kind of fake a baritone sound. So therefore, I'm a barytenor.
So you wrote on your resume high C. What grade? What would you call yourself?
What do you mean?
He wrote he's a high C. What would you say you are?
A barytenor with a high C.
What's
I am definitely not a barytenor with a high C.
What are you?
I may be a barytenor with like a high A on a good day.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, see, that's the thing too. Is barytenor is so
it's a funny word.
Inclusive.
It's a funny word.
Is that lower?
A little bit lower.
Yeah, there's like a lower version and a higher version.
You can
It's
tell
very strange.
You can tell I know a lot about music. So why do we use all three of your names to confuse dyslexic people like me?
Well, for one reason, for a very purely practical reason, when I went to join the Actors Union, there was already a Jacob Watson on the list. And so I had to then find another option. And I considered Jacob Keith. Keith is my father's name. It's also my proper middle name.
Is there a J.K. Watson?
No, but I
Sounds
was
like a
afraid
writer.
of being the J.K. Rowling and J.K. Simmons, who I do love. But I kind of was like, yeah, he can have that. That's his thing. We're both redheaded, bald guys. I'll let him do it.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I don't want to confuse anyone anymore. And then the other thing was most of my favorite actors used all three names. So I was like, okay, I'll just do all three of them. Why not?
What would your mother say if you changed your name?
Changed my name completely?
Would she kill you?
No, she wouldn't kill me.
She'd just be
they'd
sadly
be like, we don't
disappointed.
understand.
She'd be sadly disappointed.
That's weird that you did that.
It would be weird, isn't it? I've always wondered about like Marilyn Monroe was, what was it? Norma Jane.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, back in the old days, all actresses changed and actors, and
Lots of
today they
people,
don't.
Yeah, not so much anymore. Yeah.
In fact, I'm a crossword puzzle worker, and I am shocked at some of the actors and actresses' names that they've kept because you cannot spell them. They're so.
But there's pride in your own name. You
That's
know what I mean?
right.
I think that's different than what there used to be. There used to be a need to fit a certain thing and to have a certain image for what you were doing, as opposed to now. I think people are a little more proud of where they come from and who they are and what makes them interesting and unique.
So I've had this conversation with men before, and us women have to give up our name all the time. I've had 3 last names. And I have to tell you, it was the first time I had to give up my maiden name, Krause. It was very hard.
Yeah.
And I loved my father and I loved my name, and I had to give it up for my first husband and then for my second husband. And I hope that's the last of having to give up my name. I'm not ever changing my name again. I know that.
Well, my wife goes by her. She still keeps her.
times are
She's still got her
different now.
maiden name. Yeah.
Yeah. Times are different now.
But, I did do that. And I did have and I know this is really getting off the subject, but I'm just going to be really quick, and Tom can cut this out later if he wants to. But I did keep because my daughter was from the first husband, I did keep 2 names, Thompson, McCoy, for a long time, just because of schoolwork with my daughter.
Sure.
So she was a Thompson, and so it gets very confusing when you have all these different names for your children when they're in school. But anyway, before we talk about the actors in the play, let's tell our listeners what the premise of the show is. It's a medley of fairy tales.
Correct.
So it's called Into the Woods. So kind of tell our listeners what.
Yeah. So the first half is very much all of these famous Grimm's fairy tales kind of interwoven into. It's like, what if all of this happened in one forest? You know what I mean? And everyone's wishes and everyone's dreams and hopes, they all come true in the first half. And then in the second half, you deal with the consequences of getting what you asked for, which is not always a good thing. And so the second half kind of is more the reality of what happens in the real world when everything goes right in the first half, what actually happens in the world. So it's a really interesting. Be sure to stick around for the second half, because I know some people are like, "Oh, that was lovely. I did it. The play's over. Everyone's happy and everyone's good." But there is a second half.
Why are plays and movies so long these days?
That's a great question.
Did you go see Batman?
I haven't seen it yet. No, but it's on HBO Max, and I was gonna watch it the other night. I was like,
you
it's 3 hours long.
You didn't have half a day to.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it some time. But the truth is if it's the thing I always say is if it's really important and it's really telling a story and it's really of quality work, you won't even notice that it's been 3 hours.
I don't know. I get stoved up sitting around for 3 hours. I don't care how
You'd be
good
surprised.
it is.
I watched a production of. There's a play called Long Day's Journey into Night, which is by Eugene O'Neill. I saw a production of it with oh my gosh, what's her name? Jessica Lange and Michael Shannon, and it was 4.5 hours long. And I went to a student matinee. I was there. It was at the Roundabout Theater, and it was just me and a bunch of high school kids. And those high school kids were enthralled for 4.5 hours.
What's the name of it?
Long Day's Journey into Night. Gorgeous play, but it's long. But that's what I mean. If it's done well and it's quality and it's really telling the story, you'll be surprised what you'd sit through.
So I didn't realize this. All of the fairy tales are grim.
In some version, yeah. The baker and the baker's wife are not. It's harder to track where they came from. They don't really fall neatly into any of the fairy tales.
I was going to ask you, are they part of Rapunzel?
No, they're not. They're not really a part of any of those.
So they're not. They're just not a fairy tale at all.
There is one. There is a thing, and they're kind of loosely based on a couple of different fairy tales combined into one. And it's really kind of the device you follow throughout the show is these two people, and they're kind of like the. There's the fairy tales going on, and then they're kind of like the what's the heart
the through
of the
road
thing.
through
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
the
that you're
plots.
really following
Yes.
through the whole
So
thing.
the baker and the baker's wife
Mhm.
are the center point through the whole movie, and you're the baker. And then all these fairy tales come in, like you were saying, at junctions throughout the movie. And the fairy tales are Jack and the Beanstalk,
Mm-hmm.
Little Red Riding Hood,
Mm-hmm.
Cinderella, Rapunzel. Is that all of them?
Yeah, and then you also have all of the princes involved with Cinderella and all of that, and somewhere along the way, Snow White and Sleeping Beauty sneak in, and the
Snow
characters are
White.
not actually there, but they're discussed at some point, and it's kind of all over the place.
Because they're all grim,
Mm-hmm.
written by him, is why there's no Alice in Wonderland. Because I was like, why
Correct.
is Alice in Wonderland not in
Right,
here?
right. That's right.
It's not
Oh,
Disney.
it may not- huh?
It's not Disney. Yeah.
It makes sense now to
Right.
me.
Well, and to be clear, it is very much a massive ensemble of people that make this thing happen. The baker and the baker's wife just don't happen to be actual fairy tales. They kind of have more of a human story that happens through it. There's not really a lot of magic that happens with them, whereas everyone else has like magical things that happen. So that's kind of the
And
differentiation.
the reason it's called Into the Woods is
Mhm.
because all of these characters go into
it's
the
all
woods.
yeah. In order to get your wish, you have to go into the woods
And everybody. And
to
so
find these things, and they all butt heads and collide.
do y'all use the woods or do you use the library in the production of the
We
play?
use both. We've got both.
So this is really interesting.
Mhm.
The Addie Gorlin Hahn, the
Mhm,
director,
mhm.
decided to start the play in a library, which is not in the original movie.
Right.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so the original concept is very much a fairy tale. It's just kind of the story, and they go into the woods, and it's the thing. Addie is really passionate about using local things to tell whatever story they're telling. And she chose the Clinton Children's Library, the Hillary Clinton Children's Library, as the location for this specific story. Since it's a storybook, it's the fairy tales, it's all about books and all of this stuff. So there is a through line for books and the library, and we use a lot of book props, and puppets are made out of books and all kinds of fun things in that way. But she wanted to use something extremely local to this area to tell the story and to make the setting for people to be like, oh, I recognize that thing. I've seen that thing before. Meanwhile, everything's covered in vines. There's fog everywhere, and it feels like the woods. But the architecture is very much of the Hillary Clinton Children's Library.
And the first act is short.
Yeah.
If you go on, so for our listeners, if you go online and you go to the rep.com, and she's did a little YouTube video on there, and
Mhm.
she talks about the set, and she talks about everything you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And she says in that clip that it's more, to me, when the movie that I watched before I came here
Mhm.
with all the famous actors, which we'll
Mhm.
talk about, was pretty much equal I would say the first act was longer than the second act.
Mm-hmm.
But she flipped it. She made the first act shorter than the second act. That's what she says or
Interesting.
referred to. Have you noticed that?
No, I have not. I haven't really paid much attention to the length of any of it.
She said the emphasis is on the second half because it's where the teaching comes in and the
That's
learning
correct.
comes
Yeah,
in.
I do agree with that. The first half is very much the stories you know. Everything happens the way you think it's going to happen to an extent. There's lots of fun surprises along the way. But you get, everybody gets what they want. Everybody gets their wish. Everybody gets the thing they were chasing.
The happily ever after.
The happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half is the part where the teaching, like she said, the teaching comes in, where the information that you need to walk away from the theater with comes in. And so it hits a little harder and hits in a little deeper way than the first half does.
So, Gray, you played this part in school.
Oh,
Sort
yeah?
of.
He was the baker.
So you're familiar with Into the Woods Junior?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where they consolidate the first half into like a PG version, and then the whole show ends with the happy ending.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, in my junior year of high school, I did the baker.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I know, right?
Fun,
it is.
fun,
It's a
fun.
good play. It's a good role. It's really fun.
Yeah.
But it's. I had no context for what Into the Woods Junior was in relation to the real show.
Sure.
So
Sure,
when
sure.
I finally kind of like looked into it after all that was done, I was like, oh, this is so much more dark and interesting.
It's really
in the
fascinating.
children's version.
Yeah, totally.
So the children's version stops after the first act, the
Pretty
happily
much,
ever
yeah.
after.
Yeah, in
in
some
terms
form,
of the
yeah.
story, yeah. Mhm.
And then the second half is what we're going to get to see at the Rip
yes,
and what you see in the movie.
the real, yeah, and the sort of
And
original
I will
version.
say something that Addie is really passionate about is, of course, to a certain age, she wants this production to be available to almost all ages. So, she doesn't think you should talk down to children when you're teaching them. You should talk to them as though this is reality. This is the way things actually are. And she wants this production to be that for people with young kids and young families, to bring their kids and not feel afraid to stay for the second half. So nobody be afraid to stay for the second half. It gets dark. There are things that happen, but
That's life.
that's life. That's the way it is, and it's really important, I think.
So what's your lead song? Let's see. Is it? Let me see.
There's
Is
the
it
big song at the end of Act 2.
You've Changed.
Well, so there's that one, which is called It Takes Two, which is the one I do with my wife, which is
The duet.
my favorite number in the show. I love doing it with the superstar Simone Rose, who's playing my wife, the baker's wife. She's unreal. But that's probably my favorite number to do in the show. And then the other big number I sing is at the end of Act 2. It's called No More. I'm not sure if it was it may or may not have been into the Disney film or not. I'm not sure.
I didn't watch the Disney one.
Did you watch the PBS version?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
With Meryl Streep, Johnny Depp.
No, that is
that is the Disney one.
version.
Oh, that's the Disney
one. Yeah,
version?
Disney produced it a few years ago.
Oh.
And I'm not sure if that song's in it or not. I only saw that once.
What was the name of it?
No More. But he's basically, yeah.
I think it is. I just watched it Tuesday night. So, are y'all going to sing together that song?
Absolutely not. I don't remember any of. Also, I don't remember any of the words. And
Y'all could. You know what I love about Into the Woods? The harmony. There are so
It
many
is.
nice
So
harmonies.
many harmonies, so
Sondheim
beautiful.
is good at that.
Huh?
I mean, Sondheim is good at that. All his shows have interesting harmonies
Yeah.
and fun melodies.
And lots of words.
So
Many words.
Giants in the sky.
Classic.
See, you're singing.
I can do
You did
one
it.
line.
That was it. And our Jack is fabulous. He
Oh, yeah.
sings the mess out of that song.
Oh, your Jack is
Yeah,
fabulous.
he's
How old
great.
is he?
I think he's a senior at Little Rock Central, I want to
Correct.
say.
Is he short or tall?
Tall.
Very.
Well, how can you have
he
a
was
tall
the, He was the
Jack?
tallest
great.
person in that
It's great.
photo. It seemed like,
It's
yeah,
great.
it was awesome.
Stand next to him and I'm like, hey, kid.
So if you watch the Disney Channel, I couldn't believe the people that were in the movie. If you watch the Disney version, there James Corden plays the
Yep.
baker, what you're playing. Emily Blunt is his wife. Anna Kendricks is Cinderella. She was in what was that TV show?
No idea.
Oh yeah, you do. Where all the kids sang all the time. Glee.
Oh,
Glee.
no,
yeah.
she did Pitch Perfect.
She did
did
Pitch
the movies
Perfect.
Pitch
Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
And then Christine. I don't know how. Here's one of these names I don't know how to say. Baranski.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. And then you've seen her everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Chris Pine is the prince in the movie.
Mhm.
God, he's so hot.
Whoa.
Have y'all seen Gray?
I can't remember.
He's not aging as well as he was when he was
okay.
young. I just watched a movie of him the other day. Every time I see
Oh,
his
really?
name, I'm like, I'm going to go watch him. Well, some of those really hot guys, like,
I hope
should
you're not listening, Chris Pine.
He's still fine, don't get me wrong, but he was so hot in this show. And then Meryl Streep is the witch. How awesome is that? Johnny Depp is the wolf, of course. Perfect typecasting. And Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
And Josh Brolin was in there somewhere, and I don't even know where he was in the movie. But there are so many people that put this production on. Are you using this many people in your play?
Oh, yeah.
How many people are in it?
I think on stage, I think we have, I haven't counted, but somewhere between 20 and 23 people.
It's a lot.
On stage, plus our offstage understudies.
So should we go ahead and tell them who the giant's wife is?
I think we have to. It's Hillary Clinton.
Is in the play.
Hillary Clinton.
She's not in it. It's her
She's
voice.
not in it. It's her voiceover. Yeah.
So
Surprise.
So she comes in from
all the speakers.
And it makes so much sense that Addie, the director, loved Hillary Clinton's library. She found it. Where's Addie from?
She's originally from Minnesota.
Well, she loved Little Rock. She just spouted on about
She's
how
so
much
passionate about it. Yeah.
And she loved Little Rock. She's a lot of local cast members, and she loved Hillary Clinton's library. And then, trying to tie it all together, asked Hillary for a cameo, and she said okay.
Exactly. Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Did you know what would you call the guy that runs the Rep, our friend?
Oh, Will Trice.
Will Trice, the artistic director.
Did you know? I'm sorry. God.
Artistic director.
Did you know Will Trice from New York before?
We knew of each other. We've known of each other for a few years because he was in New York for a long time, and but we never really crossed paths. But we followed each other on all the social media and all that kind of stuff. There's like a weird spidey sense with all the people who make theater when you're from Arkansas originally. If you're out doing it, you kind of have a thing where you're weirdly connected. And I'd never met him or really chatted with him prior to this, but I'm so grateful that I was able to come back and do this.
So who cast the people, the actors?
I think there's two casting directors. There's a local casting director, Felicia Dinwiddle, who is the company manager and casting associate for the Rep. And then there's a gentleman named Jason Stiers, who is a New York casting director that they've used to help bring in some of the New York talent.
How do you apply for this job? How do you go in?
It's kind of all over the place. Yeah, it's kind of different depending on the job. Nowadays, it's mostly videos. Prior to COVID, I would say it was mostly you go in person. They send you some material. Your agent submits you for the job, and then the casting director kind of whittles down who they want to bring in, and then from there, it's kind of up to the director and the artistic director to decide who they want to do the show. But then you would come in and with audition materials and do it. The way we do it now is you send in a video, and if they want to see you in person, then you maybe come back for a callback. But a lot of times they'll just say, hey, try it this way, and then you send another tape in. So, yeah, it's interesting.
You like it better or worse?
I personally really like doing videos because I can just do it and leave it. I don't have to go into the city.
And you can redo it and redo it.
You can, yeah. I think the trap of them is that if you keep going sometimes, you just get stuck and you just keep doing it.
It gets
and you
worse
get like banging your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Exactly. So most of the time, I try to do 3 or 4 takes, and then what I end up using 99% of the time is the first one I did anyways.
Do you get the script how far in advance?
When actually doing the show, it kind of depends. Sometimes you get it a couple days before. Sometimes you get it a month or so before.
There's so much to memorize.
I know.
How do you do that?
I know, it's tricky.
So you can't be an actor unless you have a great ability to memorize stuff?
It's definitely part of the skill set that's necessary. It's not, some people are better at it than others, and but I would say in some form, it's a good brain exercise to be able to memorize.
If you don't say it exactly like it's written, does the director get mad if you get in there and ad lib a word or two because you can't remember it right?
It kind of depends on who you're working with. Generally, no. But there is a certain amount of honor and integrity you want to bring to the piece. As an actor, I think it's part of your job to do your best to bring the intent of what was written word for word. Sometimes the brain just goes away. We call it going into the white room, where you're just, what am I doing? And so you just start making things up and trying to get back on track in some form. So it happens, but you do your best.
Does it happen live?
Yeah. Well, that's why we call it the white room, because you're just
glaring.
gone. But yeah, so the goal always is to be word for word for what the
So
original
when did you
intent
get this script?
I got this script. I would say I want to say 4 weeks before I started this. I was in the middle. I was doing another show at the time out in Berkeley, California, and so I worked a little bit on it there, and then I was doing another workshop of another musical right before this. So I didn't really have time to work on it then. But I did my best to show up as memorized as possible.
So when did you start getting serious about learning it?
I would say when I got it, it's a lot of material. And then when I got here, when I finally got to working on it, it's interesting because with certain shows, you also don't want to be too memorized when you show up, because you kind of you can fall into the trap of memorizing it. And then you've memorized the way you're going to act it too. You know what I mean? And so you kind of want to learn it as you're going sometimes, so that it still feels more organic and more human, as opposed to, this is the way I'm going to do it because I memorized it this way, no matter how the person across from you is doing it.
How long is the play?
I think 240.
So and you're on stage most of the time.
I do have a couple of breaks, but I'm on stage in some form quite a bit, yeah.
So you had to memorize 3 hours worth of words and songs. Gray, why are you laughing, Gray?
It's very exaggerated, Mother.
Doesn't seem like it to me. I can't even read his name without making a mistake. Sometimes I have to do 30-second commercials, and they have to hold up a flashcard over the guy's head because I can't even memorize 30 seconds.
Memorization is just like singing. It's a skill that you can build.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And lots of people in the show have lots of things to say and sing in this show. So we share that burden together. That 2.5 hour burden is shared amongst many folks.
I really admire people that do that kind of stuff. I can't imagine. Jacob, do you plan to be a actor all your life?
Yeah, I think so. I think more than that, I think I definitely see myself being involved in the theater for the rest of my life, whether that's as a teacher or administrator in some form or a director. I definitely want to be involved in the theater as long as possible.
Well, your parents are teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I already see the writing on the wall. When you get tired of traveling and you decide to settle down, it's going to be teaching. You live in New York now?
Yeah, we live
Or
right
New
outside.
Jersey.
We live in New Jersey.
You think you'll stay up there?
I'm not sure. We've talked about, now that everything is so digital and most auditions are via tape and via video recordings, we've talked about what it would look like to maybe move closer to family. Who knows?
Where's your wife from?
She's originally from Memphis.
Oh, so you are both Southerners.
Yeah, yep. And we grew up, my hometown was 45 minutes from Memphis. Now my parents live in Jonesboro. So it's a little longer, but 2 hours from Memphis is nothing.
Is your dad still teaching football?
Nope, no more.
Nothing.
They're both retired. Yep.
Starting out, did you have a contingency plan? Did you think, you went to school to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
What was your backup plan? Because let's be honest, most people don't, or do they? Maybe I'm wrong. It seems like most people don't really end up staying in the business.
Well, it's interesting. I think if you'd asked me this, prior to studying it and becoming a professional actor, I'd be like, yeah, I think a contingency plan is a great thing. A backup plan is a great thing. And then after having done it, I realize why people leave the business. It's rarely because they're not working or because they can't hack it or whatever the culture likes to make jokes about. So, that person couldn't hack it, so they quit the business and moved away. That's not really a thing. What it is usually is people recognize they want something else out of their life and they choose to go do something else. Right, exactly. And it's a great thing, and I applaud it, and it takes a lot of courage and curiosity, and it's very exciting to me when people do that. So for me personally, I entered school thinking I was actually going to go teach, probably. I'd never thought, I wanted to be an actor. In my head, I was like, yeah, I could do this. But then, you go to a small school, and you think, well, no one's really ever been on Broadway from this school, so that's kind of a pipe dream. And then somewhere along the way, you say, okay, well, actually, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go do it. And you switch the switch is flipped.
There you go.
Woo! That took a minute.
You're having a Kerry moment.
The switch has been flipped, and you decide, okay, well, I'm going to go all in on this and go for it. And so I never really had a contingency plan. I still don't have a contingency plan.
There are so many acting opportunities today. It's not like the old days when you had 3 channels and two movie studios.
And Broadway was like the only goal.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's so many places. That's what I tell students all the time. Is like Broadway is a great thing. Like it's a great goal to have if that's what you really want to do. But you can make theater in so many places. There's so many great places like Little Rock to be a theater maker. Mm-hmm. It's just, we've been told that there's only one place you can do it, and that's not true.
What do you think about the Arkansas Repertory Theater in Little Rock?
It.
People love it.
I've had such a great time.
Actors love it.
Would
you call it a regional theater?
Yeah.
So your repertoire is Broadway, national tour, and regional theater. Mm-hmm. So the Rep is a regional theater?
Yeah, that'd be regional.
If you had to rate it from 1 to 10, what would you rate it?
12. It's great.
Oh.
Look at you.
Having a great time.
Sucking up. It is really good, though.
It's really great.
It's very unique for a town our size.
I actually really love the space, too. The theater itself is really, really cool. I've had a great time. I've felt very loved and supported and had a good time.
So let's talk about the 3 genres of that you've done. So Broadway, is that a tour? Is that a show every night?
Oh, yeah.
And
that's 8 shows a week, 6 days a week.
How do you keep your voice in place?
Technique, rest, exercise, lots of water, lots of sleep. It's tricky. It's really
what happens
tricky.
if it just gives out on you?
Then you take time off.
And you have an understudy?
Yeah, you have an understudy. Or
how often does the understudy get used?
It depends. It really depends on how difficult the show is. It depends on when you're doing it. It depends on all kinds of things.
Have you been an understudy for a famous person before?
For a famous person? Mm-hmm. Like for like a famous person?
Well, I don't know.
I've been understudies for Broadway famous people.
Okay.
But not like a famous person.
Not like a movie person.
Yeah.
Not like Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
But you've had big roles for famous people on Broadway. How's that feel when they're sick? You're like, oh shit. Or are you happy? Are you happy?
Weirdly, I have not, in that circumstance, I haven't had to go on as the understudy for that particular role. I ended up they had to leave for a little while, and then I ended up taking over the part for 6 weeks.
What was the part?
Enoch Snow in Carousel. And so that was my first principal lead role on Broadway. And so I was always the understudy prior to that, and then that person had to take a leave for 6 weeks to go do another thing. And I took over for that period. And then I never went on before that.
Is it true, like they say in the movies, that these stars are threatened by the understudies?
No.
I didn't think so.
No,
That's
we're all
just
doing
movie.
it together. Yeah, so many movie things.
Well, life happens.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
kind of the point of an understudy.
Yeah,
yeah.
So. Like your kid's sick, stay home. I'll do it. I don't care. I'm not trying to take your job. You go do your thing.
So when so the difference between Broadway is 8 shows a week. But when you're doing a national tour.
Also 8 shows a week.
No.
Yep.
You're not doing 8 shows at the Rep, are you?
We're doing 7 shows a week here.
Thursday, what days?
We're doing Tuesday through Sunday.
Oh. So it's just as many shows. For some reason, I thought when you did regional or national tours.
It kind of depends.
So if you're doing a national tour, let's say at the Robinson, so they'll bring in, I just went and saw, what's that animal that one that eats?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I just went and saw a national show. What was it called? I was going to say it's the one where that cactus eats everybody. What's that show called?
Cactus.
Little Shop of Horrors.
But it wasn't that, now that I think about it. I saw that somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went and saw the one where the teenage movie star girl, Hairspray.
Oh, Hairspray.
Okay, so I just went and saw. Sorry, Tom.
Can we just take a moment and appreciate Mom's synopsis of these shows?
When the cactus eats everyone. Once I was like, a succulent that eats everyone. Okay, I got you.
That's right, isn't it?
I mean, more or less. Yeah.
Venus flytrap.
It's kind of. Yeah. I guess that's what he is.
Kind of like an alien version.
That's right. He's an alien. Anyway.
Heidi Ho in there's laughing, going, yeah, that's so stupid. So I just went and saw Hairspray,
right? And
it was a national tour, but I don't think it played 8 shows.
Really?
But it may have.
Well, it's here's the trick with national tours, and this could be a very complicated conversation because then there's non-union national tours and then there's union national tours.
Oh.
We're not going to get into that, but you can do what's called a split week on a national tour, which means you do 4 shows in a place like Little Rock, and then you travel the next morning, and then you load in and do 4 shows in Shreveport, Louisiana. So you will have technically done 8 shows, just maybe not in one location.
2 locations. Boy, that seems even harder.
It is very difficult.
Of all the ways you've done it,
sometimes they'll do one night a week. They'll do one show a day, and you travel the next day and
truck you from city to city every
the
day.
poor
Busing
guys
trucks.
that have to go in first.
That's
and set
the real
up.
thing. Yeah, the people who do the load in, load out is awful.
Oh, I can't imagine.
No.
So you've done Broadway, national tour, regional tour. Of the 3 styles of work, which one's your favorite?
They're all wonderful for different purposes. I've really found a love for regional theater that I didn't know I was going to have, because you are going into these places and you're offering a service. You know what I mean? When you're doing regional theater, these houses are offering something to the community. Broadway is, yes, it is art. It is attempting to bring something new into the world. It's wonderful, but it's also purely business. It's trying to make money at the same time. National tour is an offshoot of that, whereas regional theater is something built for this community, by this community, for this community, which is really exciting to me to be able to offer that to people.
Your director just was so into it in her her YouTube.
Yeah, she's fabulous.
I think people don't realize that Little Rock's got so much to offer. We interview all kinds of people all the time that say, I come here and I had no idea you were going to have a ballet.
And it's pretty incredible.
And you have a symphony, and you have this regional theater that's wonderful. And then you go up to Northwest Arkansas. And
Oh, man.
Yeah.
they really got it going on up there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to Theater Squared?
Not yet.
Yeah, speaking of regional theater, yeah.
I know a handful of people up there. I've chatted with them.
It's
but
cool. I haven't
love
been.
to at
Yeah,
some
the new
point.
space is incredible.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite show you've done?
Ooh.
So let's just go over some of your shows. To jog your memory.
Okay.
On Broadway. Carousel, Hello Dolly, Amelia?
Amelie.
What's that?
It's based on the French film from the late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
I'd probably like that. Phantom of the Opera, 1776, Robert Livingston Encores.
I played Robert Livingston at the company Encores in New York, in 1776.
Is that your favorite show?
No.
Oh.
I loved it, though. It was great.
Violet Preacher?
Violet was probably my favorite show I've done, for numerous reasons. But mostly, one, it's connected to Arkansas in some way. It's about this girl. The whole synopsis is very interesting, but it's about a person who's trying to get healed, and so she takes a bus. It's during the 60s, during the civil rights movement. She takes a bus from North Carolina across the country to Oklahoma to a healing preacher. But she makes stops in Memphis. She makes stops in Fort Smith and all this kind of stuff to get to Oklahoma. And 2, the reason it's my favorite is because it was my first Broadway show. And it's also how I joined the Actors Union. And it's really where I learned how to be a professional actor. Just watching so many like Tony Award winning people, and it was incredible to be in that small room with only 10 to 15 of us, making that beautiful show and learning so much from those people. And it was a really, really special experience.
Have you been to the Tony Awards?
I did. That was the first time I went.
Did y'all win an award?
I think we won a couple of things. I'm not sure.
Did Neil Patrick Harris happen to be the MC?
No, it was actually Hugh Jackman that year, I think.
If nobody's ever watched Neil Patrick Harris, is his last name Neil Patrick Harris? Okay. If nobody's ever watched him on YouTube do the opening for the Tony Awards, I watch it all the time. I bet I watched it 12 times. I even turned it on this year and showed my husband, and he was like, "Oh my gosh!" And he wanted to watch it again.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so getting good. Bigger.
Uh-huh.
I can't sing. All right. Regional theaters. You've done kind of the same ones in the regional theaters. Othello. Oh, that sounds awful.
That was at Arkansas Shakespeare Theater. That was when I was in college still. I was an understudy in that show.
Were they doing that at Wildwood?
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah, way out west.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the Shakespeare Theater? It used to be on Center Street?
It was in Conway.
Oh, it was in Conway.
It was in Conway. I'm not sure where it's at these days, but at that time it was at UCA.
As You Like It.
Also there.
I know that show. What's that one? I know that one. I recognize
know that one.
Yeah.
That's the one where the monologue is all the world's a stage, all the men and women are merely players.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So are they all musicals because you sing?
Well, those two are Shakespeare.
Well, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mom is not on board.
No, I don't get it. I do not
The
get
Shakespeare?
it. I don't get it at all.
I get it. It's an interest. I love Shakespeare personally, but you have to have people who really know what they're doing present it to you. And then you will understand it in a way you didn't expect to.
You have the best laugh. We were just talking about it. And so I asked, do you laugh in the play?
Uh-huh.
And you said yes. And you also...
Lots of laughing, lots of crying.
How do you
You'll
cry?
have all the things. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
It's okay if it doesn't.
Yeah.
You just fake it. You just learn how to laugh.
Keep going. You just keep going.
You just learn how to laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, cry. You just learn how to cry. And even if you're not crying for real, you just look like you're crying because you're an actor and you can make it look like you're crying. Is that right?
Well, yeah, you play the story and whatever happens, happens. That's the goal. And you as an audience member will also laugh a ton and you'll also cry a ton.
What did you lose?
I think I lost something. Oh, here it is. Oh, no.
You need a page.
Aha. So if you're just tuning in, we've talked about life on the road, life in Broadway, how to take care of your voice, how to have don't bother having a contingency plan if you want to be an actor, because there is so much work out there today.
I have a caveat for that I will add.
All right.
I will say that it is also very important to have other passions as an actor. This can't be your only thing that you're passionate about. You have to have other things you're chasing, other things you dream about, because that then makes you a better actor. It makes you a more full human in order to do that. And also sometimes those other passions can lead to ways of making great money that allow you to do even better jobs and even better shows and more interesting pieces of theater. So it's an interesting
Great advice.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have any life experience, how can you be an actor? Where do you draw from?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't look like someone that's ever had any problems in your life. You have great parents.
Well, we've all had things.
You have?
Yeah, we've all had things. Yeah.
So I've heard that when you get up there and you're about to cry that you're supposed to think of when your dog died or something.
God.
That'll make me cry in a heartbeat. I can just think
relive
about
your
it.
trauma.
Yeah, right.
Is that what you do?
No.
Oh.
That sounds very like old school method.
That is
acting.
very old school.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get your tears out? How do you do it? Where do you
I mean,
pull
everyone, actors and everyone alike benefit from like vulnerability practices, right? And I think as an actor, it's something that's a part of what you do. And so if you practice allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open on a daily basis, it's going to be much easier when you're on a stage in front of people too.
People have a hard time being vulnerable.
They do.
I think that's one of the things I admire about actors so much is I sometimes watch them, even in movies and stuff, and I just think, how do they have so much faith and trust in the cameraman and the editor that they're just going to get up there and cry and snot and do all this stuff and and just bare their soul and give it everything they've got and trust the people that are supporting them.
Yeah. It does take a lot of trust. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Advice to wannabe actors: do you have to be a triple threat?
Coming from someone who is not a dancer, no, you don't.
You don't dance?
I move. I can do some things.
You fake it?
But you're not going to pay me a lot of money to do a lot of dancing. So no, I think there's a space for all kinds of people in the theater specifically. That it's not what it used to be that you had to be a song and dance man in order to be in the musical theater. It's not like that anymore.
If you were starting out again, is there anything you'd do different?
That's a really good question. No.
Because you learned from it all.
Yep.
If you were going to give advice to somebody starting out, how would you tell them to start?
Just start.
Go to school?
Do it anyway.
Is it worth going to school?
Depends. Some people it's really worth it.
Jennifer Lawrence didn't even graduate high school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it's really worth it. Some people need the incubation period of just learning how to trust themselves and trust people around them. Some people are completely fearless already and can go for it and don't have to worry with that. And then there will be a time where those fearless people have to relearn that fearlessness. You know, it's kind of a cycle. It's not as easy as we're all in different phases, in different parts of the journey. And sometimes they take steps back and steps forward and classes are required.
You think you'll be acting forever?
I think so, in some form. I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think I'll either be involved in the theater in some way for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Even if you end up a teacher.
Yeah.
What's the future of theater? Were you in New York when COVID hit?
I
And
was.
Were you
I
trying
was
to get
around it.
jobs?
Well, there weren't any. Everything was canceled. Everything was gone.
So you worked for your wife?
I did. Yeah.
And anything else? Did you consider getting out of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for that first year, I really did not consider myself an actor. That first year of being off, I just kind of was like, oh, I was pretty tired. I was pretty run down. I'd done a lot of stuff up to that point. And I think I was like, what does it actually look like to not be in the theater or in as an actor at all? Let's see what it looks like. And for that first year, I did. And there came a point where I was like, oh, much to my wife's dismay sometime, I'm to be an actor. This is what I do. And that, once again, that switch was flipped. I did it again. That switch was flipped again. And I was like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I have to do. And this is what I'm supposed to do.
You just didn't feel fulfilled.
Yeah, I didn't. I felt there was like a piece of me missing.
So how much do you travel a year?
It kind of varies. I would say prior to COVID, I tried to not travel very often. I really like to be home. I like to come home at night and be with my wife, Elizabeth. I don't like to be out on the road very often. But after COVID, first of all, there's the work is you have to take it. Second of all, I've been presented with a lot of fun opportunities that haven't just happened to be in New York. So I've traveled some. But it really varies kind of depending on season. When I did a tour for a year and I was never home, I did not like that at all. But I've only been home probably 2 weeks in the last 6 months.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's not been good. It's been tough.
So how hard is it on your marriage? She got a boyfriend or something?
Oh no.
No.
No, of course
absolutely not.
not.
She's actually in Memphis with her family right now.
What in the world? That's too much. Is this why actors are always getting divorced? Because you lose touch with your wife?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm lucky that we have a great relationship and we have great communication in that way.
And there's Skype.
Yeah, exactly. There's FaceTime, and we've kind of figured out how to make it work for us. And she's actually coming down today because for opening night she's going to come. She should be here about 3 or 4
Do you know I'm coming tonight?
You are?
Yeah.
Yay! That's exciting. You're going to come see the show too, right?
I will, not tonight, but yes, I
Great.
will.
I'm bringing my grandkids.
Great. That's exciting. That's going to be fun.
Well, good. I look forward to meeting her. I just really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so
Me
much
too.
for taking the time. I know you had to get up early. You actors probably don't get up this early.
No, I get up pretty early. I'm usually up around 7 o'clock, 6 or 7.
So my last question: when you get off at Broadway and you have to drive home to New Jersey,
yeah.
what time do you get home?
It kind of depends. Sometimes if I'm taking the train, it could be 1 o'clock. If I'm driving it, usually earlier. But it's tough. Yeah,
You're going to have to if you're going to have kids, you're going to have to change your life.
Well, a lot of people do. A lot of people do when they have kids. They realize, oh, this is not maybe it.
You don't see your kid for 6 weeks. You come back and he's an inch taller.
I'm going into the city when they're going to sleep or coming home from school or what. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. But I don't have kids. I've got cats, and they're always around, and they're always awake.
They'll be awake at 1 a.m.
Exactly,
home. Yeah.
sleeping on my head.
Yeah.
Jacob Keith Watson, I have enjoyed you so much.
Same here.
I really enjoyed this interview. And for you to remember us by, here's a desk set with the U.S. flag, of course, the Arkansas and the New York. But I really should have given him New Jersey.
Oh, that's fine. I'll take New York. I work in New York.
There you go. Thank you so much.
This is lovely. I love this.
Thank you.
This
We
is
love
great.
you. We love you. I look forward to seeing you tonight at the play.
Yep, come find me.
It's time for us to go. So in closing, I'd like to tell our listeners thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.